it's a bit hard to, but please come on board. Sorry, I think there's a lot of noise from the audience. But please meet Mudarsa Sheikha. He's the co-founder and CEO of Careem. I think he doesn't really need much of an introduction in this part of the world. He's one of the really successful business leaders here based in Dubai. Careem, let me just get right to it. What role do super apps such as Careem, like yourself, in a position that you have in the organization that you lead, what type of responsible role do you play, or actually a leading role in the region when it comes to sustainability and mobility?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Of course, we started with the mobility business, and there's a lot of cars that are on the road that are dispatched by us. So there's a lot that we can do to drive sustainability in people moving from point A to point B. And the few things that we have done, at least here in Dubai, is first the shift to hybrid cars. So about 50% of our trips in the city of Dubai are done on hybrid cars, which, as you know, are only consuming 30% of energy compared to internal combustion. The second thing that we have done, you'll probably see a lot of Careem bikes around Dubai. So for a lot of short trips, it makes sense for people to just use bikes, which are a lot more sustainable. And the bikes are not just there for short trips, but they're also encouraging the use of public transport. So these bikes end up becoming the last mile from people leaving public transport and then taking those bikes home. So that's the second thing that we are doing. And the last initiative that is currently under works, you'll also see a lot of Careem delivery bikes around Dubai now. And there are plans in place to start replacing these internal combustion bikes to electric bikes, so that we can also start driving this part of our business to become more sustainable.
You're seeing a growth in that, in those areas with the bikes.
Yeah, look, from a
Because I hear in Dubai, everybody has a car.
Yeah, bikes are very, very popular. They're definitely popular among the people that are using the metro. But they're also very popular as a form of leisure and entertainment. So you'll see a lot of bikes being used at the beaches, at the malls, and some parts of Dubai. They're extremely popular.
So asking both of you, but we'll start with you, Mudassir. Considering that in a month's time, Dubai will be hosting COP28. It's an incredibly important discussion to have. But right now, when we look at the world that we are faced with a lot of these geopolitical issues that's taking place, we thought managing one war was difficult. Now we are in the midst of a second war. So in the midst of this type of geopolitical environment and economic downfall that comes with it, just how hard is it to keep this sustainability topic as a priority? I know you'll have a lot of leaders, a lot of business leaders coming into Dubai next month, but really how hard is it when you're running these businesses to keep it a priority?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think maybe you can split this into two markets that we look after. There is the Gulf, and there is the Middle East outside the Gulf. Now in the Gulf, the economic conditions are generally much better. There is economic growth happening. Most people have jobs. There are incomes. There is purchasing power. And in the Gulf, there is some value from a customer lens as well to be sustainable. So if you make these things sustainable, you will see customers adopting it and even paying a slightly higher price for these services, because there is some awareness that this is important. Outside of the Gulf, I think as you pointed out, there are way more basic things that people are contending with. Even personally for me and for the organization, it is way more important for us to create jobs and give people basic necessities that will allow them to look after their families, educate their kids, than to focus on sustainability, which is really, really unfortunate, because a lot of the region, as you know, is vulnerable to climate change. We saw some of the worst floods in Pakistan in the last year. Jordan is quite vulnerable, and there are many other parts of the region as well that are quite vulnerable. But at the moment, there are just way more basic things that we're contending with, trying to make sure that those are catered for first before we can start diverting a lot of resources and efforts on sustainability in that part.
Yeah, for us, our sustainability efforts rolls out globally. because our customers, while they travel, most of them still wants to make a contribution to reduce the emission. I think the main focus will be renewable energy. I know tremendous efforts have been put in China. The solar energy and wind energy and energy storage become the three major anchor to help the country to achieve net zero. So many startups based on their philosophy and pursuits are building their business upon these new ideas.
But both of you are leading in your respective industries, and you serve actually not only your own company, but you serve other companies, you have partners as well. How do you see this whole ecosystem coming together? Because what we know is that despite the ambition of one company, if you're not together, it's quite suboptimal.
Yeah, look, I think you have to marry it to economic incentives somehow. So, in our case, for example, if we are able to charge a higher price from customers for hybrid cars, and we start paying hybrid cars more than normal cars, now there is an economic incentive that's going to drive the adoption of that option. Similarly, if we, for example, in our delivery business, we deliver food, deliver groceries, deliver many other things, if we are able to give preferential access or preferential utilization to fleets that are more sustainable, they start making more money, that thing will happen. That's what I believe we can do as an organization, because if you don't have economic incentives aligned across the value chain, it starts creating a burden on the value chain, and you may be trying to do something sustainable, but you're not going to win in the market. That might defeat the whole purpose.
For us, there are a lot to do. For example, when we fly from China to Dubai, we have to take a plane. Or when you fly from China to London, you have to take a plane. Once we are in UK, we try to promote people to use public transportation, because the emission by using public transportation is so much more efficient compared to rent a car, one person, one car.
And you give those kind of incentives.
Exactly. And we make it seamless. So once people land in Heathrow, the expressway is pushed to the customer's app. They can immediately use these public transportations.
So we can't have a conversation if we don't talk about AI. I want to move into the technology space. Now, AI is not something really new to you, both of you in your industries. You've used it. It's a really important part of your businesses as you move forward. But can you share with us, how do you use business AI in your businesses, and any of the key changes that you fundamentally made based on the technology that you've been able to adopt?
So AI has definitely become a buzzword. If you don't do AI, then you're doing something wrong these days. But we've been doing AI for a while in some shape or form. I remember in 2017, 2018, my co-founder Magnus, he called that year as the year of AI, where we would look at AI to do everything more efficiently. So a lot of AI is already built into your basic Careem experiences. So before a booking even comes, we can predict where the next booking will come from. The cars are positioned in the right places. The ETAs that you get, the pricing that you get is all in some shape or form powered by AI. So that's been a part and parcel, and more things are happening on that front. The second is slightly more fundamental thing that is going to happen, because now we've pivoted from being just a ride-hailing business to becoming an everything app. So there's a lot of services available on the app. But one criticism I often get from people is, I don't know what services you have. And it takes one or two more clicks to get to those services. Now, in today's day and age, we should be able to predict, based on who you are, based on where you're opening the app from, what you will want to use, and make it super easy to surface that upfront and make you use that service. So we actually believe that some of the stuff that is happening with AI will actually benefit significantly platforms like Careem that have multiple services that can not only surface those things way easier, but can also start piecing things together that belong together. So I'm sure you'll talk about things on the travel side. Many things are booked individually, and then the experience is still quite clunky. We can make those things come together much more nicely. And the last but not the least is AI that powers autonomous driving. I think that's going to be the last frontier of disruption that AI will bring to some of the things that we are doing.
Yeah, so AI is very powerful for our business. We mainly use it in 4 areas. The first one is the user interface. Before ChatGPT, customers search by using different layers of search to find the right product. Now with the voice-activated AI interface, it's much easier for them. The second one is to improve the efficiency. By using Copilot, our engineer already cut their coding time by about 18% as of Q2. Our CTO told me they can further cut it to one third of the coding time. So the efficiency will be improved. The third one is content generation. Using AI, we'll be able to come up with the content that is more suitable, supported by our data. And lastly is the efficiency for customer service team, because when call center employee got the inquiry, the ability for us to identify what customer really is looking for is enhanced. So for these 4 areas, we are fully utilizing the AI capability.
Because I was trying to retrace my trip to here, from Hong Kong to Dubai. It took several days of planning, figuring things out, but I was wondering, if I went to ChatGPT, asked it to pump out my itinerary for Dubai, pump in my preferences of hotels, what I like, so it would print that out. I'd book a car, but I would really prefer it to be a driverless car and an EV car. Get my boarding pass, a QR code before I get on a plane. And actually, the only time my first human interaction would actually be when I get on the plane. Perhaps, and maybe we're going to envision a world where the plane is also pilotless, so that does really sound quite scary. And then immigration. I go through immigration, and frankly, I'm not greeted by angry immigration officers. So if I was thinking all of that, it seems like a really perfect world, an ideal world. But reality right now, everything is quite still fragmented. So I know, like Kareem, you're a super app. But when will we be able to get to a super app? When all of this is part of the system?
Yeah, it really depends on how much one app can control. In Trip.com, for example, when our customer make a reservation from Shanghai to London by taking a first class and business class tickets, we automatically will push a 5-star hotel for them. Ritz-Carlton in London. And immediately we'll calculate the distance between Heathrow to the airport and push expressway or a car for them. When they checked in, we automatically will recommend a spa or a Michelin restaurant to the customer. So that's all automatically packaged. And if something happens, if there is a storm, the plane is delayed in China, for example, we automatically will push a high-speed railway tickets for them. We'll tell the driver that instead of picking them up at the airport, now the driver needs to go to the high-speed railway station to pick up. And we'll tell the hotel to hold on to these hotel rooms for late check-in.
So you actually take care of that already?
Everything, end to end. As long as it's within our ecosystem, we can take care of everything for you.
I think the Americans should adopt your system, actually.
Yeah. But if it's out of our system, for example, when we go through the Heathrow Airport, the customs is not in our system. So in the future, this is something we can do. We are working very hard. I think eventually your dream will come true.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. Kareem, anything you want to add?
Yeah. Look, I think just to build on what Jane said, the fact that you have multiple things that are on your platform just makes it a lot easier to piece things together. So, but that I feel is the easier part. The technology is the easier part in this case. It's how do you drive adoption to that technology? And my sense is that we'll probably drive adoption in bite-sized chunks. One thing will become easier, the second thing will become easier, the third thing will become easier, and then over time, before we know it, the whole experience will get automated. And that is probably a bigger hurdle to cross at this point than the technical challenge of bringing these things together. Because as Jane said, it's already happening to a large extent.
And then if my experience is more digitally led, seamless, and hopefully intelligent as well, is there a byproduct factor of that where the ecosystem does become a bit more sustainable? Or no?
I hope so, because if it's all electronically viable, you will reduce these paper itineraries significantly. And we can also, right now, the travel industry and any service industry is facing a challenge for shortage of the labor. So the automation really helps industry to address these issues.
In terms of a shortage of labor, because there was a mass exodus during COVID of people in the industry. But now, with the advent of technology, AI, and all these different premonitions and of how much technology will replace people, you still need skill sets, you still need people. But how are you doing? What kind of a new workforce are you creating, are you looking for? And what kind of training are you looking for as well?
I think because of the automation, 97% of our transaction is done on our APP. So the call center employees, we're not reducing them, but we're maintaining the same level of the call center employee, but only use them at the occasion when there is natural disasters, something we cannot forecast. So that's some trend. And also restaurants, for example, waiter and waitress, instead of having them to take the order, we're working a lot with the hotels. If we can preload all the menus into the system and our customers can pre-order it, the waste of food can be reduced and the labor requirement will be reduced, which is very good for the hotel as well.
Yeah, look, I think maybe Elena, let me answer your question before this as well on how does sustainability benefit from things working together more seamlessly. And I'll give you a basic example. What will happen for these things to work seamlessly is that you'll have to integrate the different systems to offer those experiences. And when those integrations happen, they will also lead to better use of resources that are powering those systems. So basic example from the ride-hailing world, let's say if all the ride-hailing companies were connected to each other, if their systems were connected to each other, you would be able to find the closest car to your pickup location, regardless of which platform that car is in. And then all of a sudden that car has to travel less and there is less consumption. Same things can happen on deliveries. You are connected, something is being ordered from somewhere, you'll be able to find easier ways to batch and serve things together. So the fact that systems will come together will create more efficiency in the system that will lead to more sustainable outcomes. Now, on the workforce, look, in this region, up until now, we have been starved of engineering capacity. We've always had more demand to build things than we had the talent to build those things. So the fact that through things like Copilot, we're able to make our development capacity 20, 30, 40% more productive just means that we can do a lot more. So that is just, let's train our people to use these tools in the best possible way so that they can actually do a lot more with it. And then on top of that, we are creating a program now within Careem to give access to generative AI to the entire company. And then let's start monitoring how people are using these things. Because at the moment, it's still very early, and we don't even know what kind of things it'll power and what kind of things it will not power productively. So already, we're seeing people use generative AI for writing performance reviews, job descriptions, marketing briefs, and things that we would not have predicted if we were plotting these things up front. So let's have people start using the technology. Let's see what the efficiencies are. And on the back of it, we can figure out what makes sense and what doesn't.
So it's not only the skill sets of the employees, it's actually the skill sets of the consumer, of the user as well. So last but not least, I want to bring it back to SuperBridge. And we started off this conversation talking about the uniqueness of SuperBridge and trying to merge and create more alliances between the Middle East and Asia, which I think it's if you look at the geopolitics of the world today and the polarization that's taking place, you realize all these companies and countries are building new alliances out of necessity maybe and opportunistic. So in the businesses that you are, Jane, your business is largely in Asia, but it has a global footprint. Your business is in the Gulf, in the Middle East, and potential to just expand. How do you see this coming together? Do you think there is a real shift in when you see about attitudes, the behaviors, the business opportunities in really bringing the Middle East and the East together?
Yeah, I think if we look at the major big countries, the people who hold the passport and travel only accounts for 10% of the population. And this population, when they travel, the more they travel, the humbler they become, the more eager they want to learn from the other region. But there is still 90% of the population who have never had the opportunity to step out from their borders. So for us, our team's mission is while we are sending people further away, we are bringing the world closer. And Middle East is a very critical area because it's in a center where Europe, Asia, Africa meets. So there will be great opportunity for us to bring our customers here to learn from the local people. And we also love to invite you, each one of you, to come and visit China in the future.
And for us, there are probably two things that make sense. One is we are operating an everything app platform. Not all the services on the app are all the services are developed by Kareem. Many of the services are developed by local startups and global startups. So we were just discussing before the panel if there is a way for the Trip.com services to be on the Kareem Super App, so we can become a gateway to the Middle East for companies from Asia. Secondly, if you travel to Asia, especially China, you realize how advanced some of these logistic platforms have become. And we also feel that there is a lot that we can learn from them on how do we do things at a much, much larger scale, which is coming through the populations that we're serving in the Middle East. So between becoming a gateway to these companies to access this market and figuring out how we can use the learnings and the technology that can help us build these larger platforms are both things that are on the table at the moment and being actively discussed.
At least from where I live, and I'm based in Hong Kong, and set aside COVID, but pre-COVID, when you walk into the five-star hotels and there were a lot of conferences, you really had most people coming from Europe or the United States coming to Hong Kong and have a conversation. Now, there's been a significant change. We see a lot more representation from the Middle East in Hong Kong, gateway through China, and so it's really interesting to see this type of shift in people's attitudes and potential business opportunities. So once again, thank you very much for coming to Superbridge. Thank you for the organizers for hosting this very incredible topic. And thank you very much. We'll hand it over to the organizer.
Thank you
Very much for your time.